What's up, guys? Welcome to Journey of a Hero, where we discuss Star Trek, Star Wars, A Song of Ice and Fire, and the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. My name is Aaron. Today we're covering Star Trek Season 3, Episode 10, Terra Firma Part 2. All right, let's get into it. So this week, the main story, we could call it the A story, focuses on Philippa Georgiou, Emperor Georgiou. She's back in the Terran universe. She's trying to see how she's going to develop and how she's going to shape things, how she's going to interact with the Terrans now that she's had all of this experience and all of this development living in what we would consider the Prime universe. The B story in this week's episode is still dealing with Discovery in the Prime universe and Saru trying to get more information about this signal that's come from the Kelpian ship and try to crack open this mystery that's still surrounding the burn all these years later. So the episode picks up. Michael Burnham has been arrested. She's been thrown in the brig. Against Terran tradition, Emperor Georgiou has chosen not to execute her because Philippa is thinking that she's going to make some different choices now that she's back in the Terran universe. Of course, Michael Burnham says that she's weak. Now this is Terran Michael we're dealing with. Terran Michael says that she's weak and that there can be no peace, that there's only the Iron Fist. So Philippa, she recruits Captain Killy, as they call her in the Terran universe, and she's going to be the one to break Michael because Philippa Georgiou, Emperor Georgiou, she really wants to bring Michael back to somebody or mold her into somebody who can take up the rule after her or rule alongside her in this new mentality that Georgiou now has. Of course, Michael is too stubborn for that. She doesn't want to repent. She doesn't want to change her ways. She's refusing food. She's being very stubborn. And they're throwing her in the agonizer. They're having Dr. Kolber force feed her. And they're just doing whatever it takes in this torturous way to get Michael Burnham to break her spirit and remold her in the vision that Georgiou wants to see. So Detmer comes to Burnham's cell. Detmer was a co-conspirator with Burnham in her attempt to throw this coup and overthrow Georgiou. And even though they're listening, Detmer knows this. She says to Michael, look, you got to just give up on your hunger strike and getting tortured here. Just come back and come back to reality and come out of the cell. She also tells Burnham that there's been no sign of Lorca, who is another one of the leaders of this coup attempt. And you can tell that Michael was still holding on to some hope that Lorca would come and help her out, that she's still harboring some emotions for Lorca in this mirror universe. But unfortunately, we didn't get Lorca back in this episode. So remains to be seen if we'll ever see that version of Lorca again. So at one point, we get this interesting scene. It's actually a nice and touching scene for the Terrans, knowing that they're so brutal. Georgiou goes into Burnham's cell while she's sleeping, and she's telling Burnham as she's sleeping this story about how when Michael was a child, we know that Georgiou in this universe is her adopted mother. When Michael was a child, she used to sleepwalk, and she would sleepwalk into this field of fireflies. So Georgiou brings this jar of fireflies and places them by Michael's head while she's sleeping. And she's basically telling her, like, I know you can reform who you are and come back to being my daughter. So Burnham wakes up, and we can tell that she's had a change of mind, at least a change of spirit, perhaps. And she begins eating, and we go ahead to a scene where she's with Georgiou, and she's basically pledging her allegiance back to her and repenting. So Emperor Georgiou sends Michael Burnham out to go and find and execute all of the co-conspirators, and she tells her that Detmer can help her out with this. Georgiou knowing that Detmer was one of the original co-conspirators with Michael. So we get this scene, this battle between Detmer and Burnham, and they're going and they're picking off one by one the co-conspirators for the coup. And they come back victorious to Giorgio and throw down all of the badges of the co-conspirators that they've executed. But the twist is that there's one more co-conspirator to execute, and Giorgio gives the word, and sure enough, Burnham turns on her friend and kills Taryn Kayla Detmer, and that's that. So after all of the co-conspirators have been executed, we get this scene with Michael and Giorgio eating dinner, and Michael notes that Kelpian is no longer being served on the ship, and Giorgio says that she had to make some changes, and she kind of laughs it off as saying that the Kelpian meat is too stringy and high in cholesterol. But we know that from her experience in the Prime universe, she even begrudgingly has developed a respect for Saru and for Kelpians, and she just doesn't think it's appropriate anymore to eat them. Nice change of heart for her. So Philippa presses Michael on Lorca and if she knows where he's at, which she doesn't, but she does give an alias, Vicar, that Lorca uses in some of his transmissions, and that gives them a clue to go and try to find Lorca or find other people that he's working with. So slave servant Saru informs Giorgio that he's going through the Vihari and that he's soon to die, and he asks Giorgio if she would do him the honor of culling him. And then she begins to tell him that it's not a death sentence, and she doesn't say, hey, I was in this other universe and you yourself went through this, but she says, hey, I knew a Kelpian and they went through this, and it's not a death sentence. And Saru starts to realize, you're not Terran. And even though she is Terran, and she tells him that, he sees that there's something very different about her, and he warns her, hey, if you don't act appropriately in a ruthless manner like the Terrans expect you to, they're gonna kill you. But she's like, no, I'm reshaping things, and you have to get through this, and you have to survive. Survival is the way that you honor your family and your friends who died thinking that they had to die because of Vihari and because of the culling. So she basically gives him this inspirational speech, and it's a nice moment between her and Mirror Universe Saru. So Giorgio and Captain Killy and all their forces head out, and they're trying to find Lorca or any of his allies, and they come across this guy, Dugan. And we also get a few scenes where we get to see Ariam in the Mirror Universe, where she's not a cyborg. She's still her normal human Terran self. So they track down Dugan, and he basically informs them that, hey, Lorca is gathering the Romulans and the Klingons, and your time is going to be up soon. And they capture him. They beam him directly into the brig, and basically Giorgio and Michael go down to interrogate him and to find out everything that he has to offer about Lorca's whereabouts. This is where the plot twists and things get interesting. So Michael Burnham, she blasts Dugan, and then she turns her phaser on Emperor Giorgio and says, you never should have trusted me. And Giorgio says that she never did. And they're having this what do they call it, a three-way standoff or whatever, even though it's probably only two-way, but there's a lot of people pointing phasers at each other. And then the honor guard comes in, Giorgio's honor guard, and there's this big battle, and Giorgio and Michael face off. And what does it end in but, of course, Giorgio having to kill Michael. And this is kind of Giorgio's worst fear, because she had done this already in the Terran universe, and then that gave her torture as she moved on through her life. Now she's been sent back, and despite her best efforts, she's ended up in the same situation. And in the battle, as she runs Michael through, she also gets stabbed in the neck herself. And before she goes unconscious, she basically sees Michael die right there in front of her. And you can tell that it kind of breaks her spirit. And also during this battle, we get to see Saru kind of go ham. Saru's gone through the Vihari, and we get to see him throwing people around and doing battle yells. That was my favorite part of the episode, when Saru does his battle yell. And then Saru comes over and finds Giorgio dying, and Michael's already dead. And he you could tell that even though he was a slave servant, he had developed an affection for the new and improved Giorgio as it was, and he comes over and cradles her. So we cut back to the Prime Universe and the timeline that we're familiar with, and it looks like Giorgio has just simply walked through this door and passed out, and that she's only been out for a little bit of time. And we have Carl back here again trying to figure out who he is. And Giorgio wakes up. She's obviously confused, thinks that she's been in the Terran universe for months. And Michael's like, look, you were only unconscious for a minute. You've been right here the whole time. Carl informs Giorgio to take a look at her biometrics monitoring watch device that they gave her. And she pulls it up and sees that 3 months of bio data have been accumulated. So she really has been in the Terran universe. So now Michael and Giorgio start grilling Carl on who he really is. And who really is Carl?
I am the guardian of forever.
Carl basically tells them that he is an entity, an intelligence, a life form that is basically a space-time portal. And he talks a little bit about the temporal wars and how people tried to exploit him. And he says that it was a rough time and he had to change his location and hide himself away. And that's how he ended up on this planet. And that's the reason why only with the sphere data was Discovery able to find his location and extrapolate that as a chance for Giorgio to survive. So at this point in the story, we cut back to the B storyline. And we see Book using some of the technology that he's acquired, Emerald Chain technology, and he uses that to get some more information to help them solve this signal mystery. And it's something that Stamets and the other scientists on board didn't have access to this type of technology. So Book proved to be very useful. As he says, I read the manual, just like Saru told him. And then we get the scene with Book, Saru, and the hologram of the Admiral. And the Admiral's just questioning the tactics that Discovery is using. And he kind of throws in a kind of cheap shot at Saru, saying, well, maybe you and Burnham, you've proven to have a little bit loose standards. But Saru defends himself and says that, they wanted to think outside the box, basically. And the Admiral's kind of just like, all right, well, just, keep it high and tight, basically. The Admiral wants to make sure that Saru is not distracted and that his judgment is still clear. And Saru does his best to reassure the Admiral of that. So back to Carl, the Guardian of Forever. He tells Giorgio that she got sent back for a reason, that she got sent back to be weighed, to see if she would make different choices, to see if she would act differently, and basically weighing her soul. It made me think of like Egyptian mythology and Anubis in the underworld, and weighing the souls of the dead to see where they'll go. So Giorgio's like, well, why didn't you tell me that from the start? Carl's obviously saying, we can't give you the answer before the test. We had to see what you were going to do. Giorgio assumes that she failed because she ended up killing Michael again. But Carl, the Guardian of Forever, points out that she made her best effort to try and do things differently, to try and bring the Terrans to a better place. It wasn't going to happen overnight, but we really saw Giorgio make efforts to start to implement better policies in the Terran Empire and to treat their subjects better and to have peace instead of continual war, because continual war leads to continual uprising and never-ending unrest, whereas peace is peace. So Carl recognizes that she tried, and even though she ended up having to kill Burnham, she proved worthy. But then Giorgio starts phasing in and out again. Obviously, she still is having this problem with her molecules being from a different time, a different dimension, a different universe. Giorgio thinks that the portal is going to send her back to the Terran universe, and she basically refuses. She says, I won't go back to the Terran universe. So we see that she's really changed, and even though she's still much more of a hard ass than our Prime Universe characters, she doesn't want to go back to that completely cutthroat realm. And Carl says, hey, what I'm going to do is send you back to a time when the Mirror Universe and the Prime Universe were more closely aligned. That way your body doesn't go flying apart, atomically speaking. So he opens up this portal, and all Giorgio has to do is walk through. Carl disappears. And then we get the parting words of Giorgio and Burnham. They tell each other how much they care about these versions of each other, despite the previous versions of each other that they knew that they really have true feelings about each other as they are here and now. And Giorgio walks on through the portal. The episode ends with the crew of Discovery toasting to Giorgio and basically saying that as stubborn and as a hard ass as she was, she had a true impact and a positive impact in many ways on the crew, and that they're basically better for having known her. And it's interesting that Michael never explicitly says that Giorgio died, because Giorgio obviously didn't die, but she doesn't say, hey, she's alive, she just went through this portal to a different place. I think Saru intuits that point, but I'm not sure what the rest of the crew actually thinks, if they think that Giorgio just died or if they know that she went somewhere else. So it's going to be interesting to see in the future in Discovery if we ever get to see where Giorgio does go, if the Terran universe or wherever Giorgio ends up ever plays back into what's going on in the Prime Universe timeline. So it's going to be interesting to see where that leads on down the road. So overall, I thought this episode was well done. I liked the character development of Giorgio. We really see Giorgio on her hero's journey as she's developed, and Terran Giorgio has become a better person through all of her trials and tribulations in both universes. So I thought that was well done. If it's the last we ever see of Giorgio, I do think it's a nice close to her character, though I doubt it will be the last we see of her. So we'll have to see where that goes on down the road in Star Trek Discovery. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm going to be hitting you back tomorrow with my Mandalorian Season 2 finale breakdown. That's it. Live long and prosper. Catch you next time. Peace.